In this video, we're going to show you how to make love. Well, make love here inside CorelDRAW anyhow. We're going to show you how we created the love design that we posted earlier. We posted a series of love designs, and we're going to show you how to create that love design yourself if you have CorelDRAW. Now, the techniques that we're going to show you here are applicable to other programs as well, even though we're going to be using CorelDRAW and EasyStone. The process could be duplicated in other programs. All right, so let's go ahead and grab our text tool here and type out our word love. And then the font that we used was Impact. And if you don't already have Impact on your computer, you can find it for free on the web. It's a pretty popular font, and it's super easy to convert into rhinestones. So here is the love text. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my text to my overall width. And I want this to be big, bold, powerful. So I made it 10 inches wide. Now the height, we're going to play with that a little bit. I am going to stretch my height out a little bit. How much, I don't really know until I'm going to make a space inside my love here. So I'm just going to grab my rectangle tool here in CorelDRAW and just drag out a rectangle. The height of this rectangle, I want to set that to 2¼ My thinking there on the height was that a lot of your fonts, a lot of your rhinestone fonts come at 2 inches or even 1.5 inches, and so that would fit within the 2¼ inch space. So that was my thought process on the 2¼ inch height. But of course, you know, that could be adjusted to whatever you want it to be. So then we'll select our rectangle, we'll hold the shift key and select love and hit the E key. E is in Edward, and that will center top to bottom. Okay, and what we want to do is just kind of visually glance at this and to say, okay, if we cut out the middle part of love, can we still make out what this is supposed to be? And of course, yes, I think we can. So this love height, let's just say 5 5/8 inches. But again, you know, you can modify it and tweak it to whatever you want to do. So now that we have that, we can then select our rectangle, hold the shift key, grab love, and this will pop up. This option here will be available to you where we can trim. Just so you know, we also have that function here in our toolbar. So if you like working with our toolbar, you can use the trim function there as well if you want to. All right, so then we can go ahead and delete our rectangle because we don't need that any longer. So this is what we're left with here. Now, when we do our rhinestone work, and you're going to be able to see this, I think, pretty easily, we take a different approach, a different design approach, because I'm too particular is what it really amounts to. And so you'll see the approach that we're going to take is a little bit different than maybe you've seen demonstrated elsewhere. So what are we going to do with love here? Well, we're going to set this in SS10 stones. So the first thing we want to do is just right click on our SS10 button. That will cement that yes, we're using SS10 stones. See, if I right click on these other buttons, you can see that number changes as I right click. So we're going to right click on SS10. Let's go ahead and right click on hot pink because that'll give us some nice contrast. And we've already set our stone spacing to be 1/2 millimeter. And we're going to drop a stone and hit the escape key. Now, what I'll probably should do is grab our love text, come over here to the specialty tab and lock it, so we can't accidentally move our love text. So this is where our process differs quite considerably compared to other rhinestone programs, and we're going to explain why we do it this way. But most of the time we'll start with vector artwork, which we already have. Technically speaking, if we go to the wireframe mode, you can see we do have a vector, but I don't typically design based on vector. In other words, we could just select this and tell the software to fill it, and the software would fill, would just look at the boundary of our vector shape and throw a bunch of stones in there. But you'll see here in a minute why maybe we don't want to take that approach, or why I don't typically would take that approach. So what we're going to do here is come up and just offset this stone here on the stone fill tab. And this is where the issue is. Now this is a minor issue in this particular instance, but basically when you tell most rhinestone programs, when you tell it to fill, what it's actually going to do is actually going to set a stone right there on the edge, and then it's going to set a stone right there on the edge, and whatever spacing works out in between, that's what it is. All right. Well, what we're doing here is we're doing something a little bit different. Let's go ahead and offset this way and just see how it works out this way. So here you can see a little bit more clearly. If this was set here and this was set here and you had all these stones in between, there isn't room for another stone and maintain that spacing. So what it would do is it would stretch the spacing across, and this would not be a 1/2 millimeter. It would be more than a 1/2 millimeter in this instance. So by doing it this way, we can specify that we know that all these stones are going to be exactly a 1/2 millimeter. So I'm going to go ahead and offset these down like so. And then we'll select these and we'll offset these across. There we go. All right. So that takes care of this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the exact same thing up top. So I'm just going to select all of those. If I hold down my shift key, that will constrain my movement perfectly vertical, and then I can mirror. Oops. See what I didn't do there? Shift key to move keep that movement perfectly vertical, but I have to right click to make a duplicate of those stones. Then I can mirror. And then I'll just go ahead and manually just bring this down so that the top of this stone is more or less the top of that artwork there. It doesn't have to be that way because obviously we're just using it as a bit of a guide anyhow. All right, so that takes care of those. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a swath of stones at the bottom, shift key, just drag those across to right there. Right click to make a duplicate. Now you can see this stone doesn't go all the way over. So what I'm going to do is offset so it does. And then maybe I'll take these and just shift them over so they're splitting the difference there between the two. All right. Now, if I select these stones here, if you look at the bottom, it says there's 7 stones there. So what I'm going to do is come up here and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to select 7 stones, shift key, drag it straight across. Okay, and if you look down here, you see there are 7. And now this is just a personal choice. I want the width of all my letters to be the same. All right. Now we've already done the E, and the E and the L are the same. So we're just going to drag those straight across, right click to make a duplicate. And we're going to just delete a couple of stones up top to get rid of those. Okay. Now, here's where the fun part comes in. And I get to show off a pretty cool tool. Actually, a couple cool tools. We're going to make a selection here at this top stone. Hold our shift key down and make a selection at the bottom stone. There's a new function in beta 10 where we can just click on add stones. And you can see it will add stones. You see what it did there? It looks weird, doesn't it? Well, we're going to undo that. We're going to select those same 2 stones again and hit SS10, and what that does is it resets those 2 stones. So then when I click on add stones, we don't get that weird effect. And the reason that you're getting that weird effect is because either this stone or this stone was mirrored. And when you have one stone mirrored and the other one not, it kind of creates like a twist effect, which actually can be kind of useful in certain design, but in this case we don't want that. So if you're using the current version of EasyStone, you would use Shift Add Stones. But now if we have 2 stones selected, the default behavior would be to fill in. When we click on Add Stones, the default behavior is to fill in between. All right, so now what we're going to do is you can see we have all these buttons lit up for us. I'm going to break stones, and what that will allow me to do is it allows me to manipulate each stone by itself. I'm going to delete the ones here in the middle that we know we're not going to use. But these stones I have to fix. And let me show you how we're going to do that. So what we want to do is take this, we'll open up our Easy Guide tool. The reason that I created these tools is because I use them all the time, so they're really handy to have. There's other ways to add guidelines and things here in CorelDRAW, but this just simplifies the process. So we're just going to click Center Horizontal, and you can see it applies a guideline smack dab there. Now this is a really powerful tool here in Easy Guides, and it's not easily done in CorelDRAW. It'd be numerous steps and takes a bit of CorelDRAW knowledge. But what we want to do is we want to take this stone and this stone, in any stones along that angle. If we hit Shift, Guided Angle, see what it does? It creates a guideline right at that angle that those stones are at. And that is quite useful, believe it or not. So let's go ahead and delete this stone path because we don't actually need it. So let's go ahead and delete our stone path. And the reason that we created this guideline is because we want this center of that stone to be smack dab right there at the middle of that intersection. So now what we're going to do is take this stone and this stone, and we're going to do S for create selection, and it's going to select every stone in between. And you can see here, see these dots, these little nodes? That tells you all those stones are selected. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click and drag with my mouse, right click to make a duplicate. And then I'm going to hover over the center and hit my space bar, space bar, space bar, space bar, space bar, space bar. Pretty cool, right? So really easy to make these duplicates for us. So let's go ahead and delete that. Alright, so now that creates this guideline at this angle. And now what we want to do is we want to flip this going the opposite direction. So let's go ahead and do that. Hold your control key, that will flip it perfectly proportionally. Right click to make a duplicate. Drag it over here a little bit. Now what we want to do is we want a guideline at this angle and centered on that stone. So select two stones at the angle that we want to create. Shift Guided Angle. That creates the guideline at the proper angle, and then we can position right there on that center of that stone where we need it. And then we're going to move these stones over so that the center right there at that intersection. So let's just move them up here, right there at that intersection. Okay, that's how we get that just perfect like that. All right, so now we need to do the same thing that we did up top down here at the bottom. Center horizontal. We need to make sure that stone, you can see it's just a little bit off, right from the center, right to the intersection. Select these two, hit S for selection. That selects everything in between. Make a duplicate. Well, let's make it over here somewhere. And hover over center, spacebar, spacebar. 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay. So now we can go ahead and delete this. And now what we'll do is we'll pick all this up, flip it over just like we did previously. Remember, hold your control key down, right click to make a duplicate. And then we're going to go from the center of that stone, right here. Watch this, center of stone, drop it right there on the center. Alright, so now is not the time to panic. You can see we have lots of overlapping stones, but we have a cool feature here inside Easy Stone where we can select all of those. C, check for spacing, and that's going to check for any blatant overlaps, stones that are sitting right on top of one another. Now you can see that there's still some overlaps, and that may be desirable, it may not be, it just depends on the situation. So what we're going to do is take row by row and hit H. Horizontal spacing, H. Horizontal spacing. Now you can see we have an overlap there, but if I hit H, then I can determine, hey, are those stones too close together? I think they are. So we'll delete one, and then we'll select those and hit H again. And we'll hit H again. And we'll hit H again. and again. And I already know that we don't have room for that one, so we'll go ahead and get rid of that and hit H. This one I think we'll let slide, so we'll leave that overlap and we'll just space that out. And same thing with the top here. Let's set those two. All right, so you can see there we go. So we have the L, the V, and the E. Now comes the fun part. So we're going to do a couple of different things here. We're going to show you how to create the top part here, but we're also going to do a baseball. I want to show you how to do the baseball because the baseball is really simple. So let's go ahead and right click on EG here. That gets rid of any guidelines that we currently have. And then what I want to do is I want to just take my rectangle tool here and I'm going to draw from the center of this stone to the center of this one, like so. And then we're going to go from here to here, and then I'm going to grab this this transformation handle. Let me back up here. Grab this transformation handle and go right to the center of this stone right here, center. Okay, and what we want to do is we want to round this over. So we're going to grab our shape edit tool here, and if we hold down the control key, what that will do is that'll just round this corner over as far as we can. And then same thing here, we're going to round this corner over as far as we can. Now, it wasn't technically necessary, but let me just back up because I just want to explain some things for you as we go along and learn about CorelDRAW. If we didn't hold down our control key and did the exact same thing, watch what happens. As I grab this corner, see what happens? All four corners change and are rounded. Now, for this particular purpose, it doesn't matter. But in other instances, you may just want one corner or just the top or just the bottom. And that's how to round over a rectangle here in CorelDRAW. All right. So now that we have this, you can't really see it because we've got black on black here. Let's get rid of, let's unlock our love here. And let's not get rid of it. Let's not just be so dangerous. Let's just move it out of the way here because I want to just focus on this part of the design. So this rectangle that we created and this that we created, we're going to trim right here. So now you can see we trim that back down to there. All right, so now we have this to work with. So then what we're going to do is we're going to offset this 6 times. So we'll go to the stone fill tab here, and actually, you know what? We probably should not have done that. No, tell you what, that's fine. We're going to have to make a modification though. Let's explain why so you understand, because it's an important point here. So let's offset 6 times and we hit island fill, and you can see what's going to happen. So you see this line that's created right here? It's going to add stones, add stones, add stones. This is not the look we're going for. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to double click on this. We're going to grab these 2 nodes and with our shift key, pull them straight down, something like that. Okay. Now watch the difference between this and this. We're going to offset 6 times, but watch the difference. See the difference? We have this little hole, which is going to be the top part of our O, which is actually what we want. So that is definitely what we want to do there. So we're going to go ahead and grab our rectangle tool again, corner to or center stone, just like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take this, go to our editing tab. Let's mark that rectangle, and then let's select all of these rings. So to do that, we're going to hold down the Alt key and swipe over them, and then just hit trim. Now we don't actually see anything happen, but trust me, it did. We're going to go ahead and select all of these and just delete them, and then you can kind of see what we've got. So you can see we just have the top part of this now. So now I can come in here and I can add stones, and there we go. And watch what happens when I pull down a guideline. See how that top of that stone is spot on the same height as the rest of it. So let's go ahead and delete our stone paths. Let's go ahead and get rid of our guidelines. We don't need those. And then let's go ahead and move this down. Let's group it together. Let's mirror it. And let's select one of these stones here at the bottom and B for bottom, and that will line it up. Now obviously you can see we need to move this, so we're going to go ahead and select this, G for group, and select them both, and just use your arrow keys just to slide it over a little bit there. Get it centered however you think it looks good. Let's just move this out of the way. We still need this because we're going to make a basketball, or not a basketball, but a baseball. So at any rate, let's go ahead and add a weed box around there. I always duplicate my design, and then I can right click and it does all the magic stuff. It will simulate my stones, it'll add a watermark, it will add my dimensions for me, and there you see where it looks really, really good. And that is how we make love here inside CorelDRAW. So now if we want to make a little baseball to go along with this, let me show you how that's done as well. Alright, so here's the outline for the baseball, and what I did, I'll just put it down here somewhere. So what I did is I just kind of just played around with it a little bit. I grabbed my ellipse tool and I drug out an ellipse. Maybe, I don't know, let's try that. Alright, so you just kind of overlap like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to duplicate it just up here somewhere, right click. So I'm just left click with my mouse and then right click to make a duplicate and flip it. And then I can go from the center back down to the center, and that lines it up. Alright, and so what that does is it gives me the same distance from each edge. And then I'm going to grab this, my Smart Fill tool, and fill in each one of those three shapes. Now this middle one here, just for the sake of doing it, just so we can see the difference, we're going to fill that with yellow. Such a powerful tool. Love that tool. Alright, so now the fun part. We've got to convert this into rhinestones. And how do we do that? Well, luckily we're working with a fairly small space, and so filling this full of rhinestones is going to be pretty straightforward for us. First of all, what we're going to do is we're going to fill with SS6 stones. So let's go ahead and switch our stone size by right-clicking our SS6 button. And then let's just take one shape. Now the neat thing about this is we don't need to do both sides because this side is exactly symmetrical to this side. So we only need to do the one side. So let's go ahead and do that. In fact, I tell you what, let's delete this and let's spread this out and let's just focus on this one piece because this is all we're going to focus on right now. So what we're going to do is go to our stone fill tab. Now this is just a general rule and a great little tip. Anytime you're filling an area, what you see here, the amount of offset, what we're going to do what we call an island fill, but the amount of offset here is 3.1. And so you can see here we have 2.6 and 0.5. If you add those two values together, it gives you 3.1. So what Easy Stone will do, if I hit island fill, it will create a series of offsets, offset to the inside, using this value, as many as it can until it can't anymore. Or we can increase this. So we're going to increase this just a little bit. And believe it or not, that little bit extra of increasing will help us get a better fill because we have just a little bit more space between stones to work with. So for this, I'm just going to go just a little bit more. We'll do 3.4 and then island fill. And you can see the middle is just a dot now. And that's just happenstance to how it works out with this particular example. So that little dot, I'm just going to delete. And so I'm going to select all of these. We're going to switch our stone color to crystal because obviously we're doing a baseball here. So we're going to go to the stone tab. We're going to hold down the Alt key. And I tell you what, let's not hold down the Alt key and show you what happens. So if we don't hold down the Alt key and hit Add Stones, you can see, if we go into wireframe mode especially, see how this stone is not perfectly at that corner? This stone, not perfectly at that corner. Obviously, these stones, not perfect, not perfect, not perfect. So that's not what we want for this particular example. We want perfect right there, Johnny on the spot, right there on those corners. So if we hold down the Alt key, it has the same effect as detect corners. So we hold down Alt, add stones, and now you can see, especially if we go into wireframe mode, we have perfection at every single corner, which is exactly what we want. All right, so that takes care of that. So then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select all these. We're going to delete our stone paths. We're going to select all those again, and we'll hit check spacing. Get rid of any overlaps. And then all we're going to do is drag and copy, copy and copy. That's it. But you can see these are not nicely spaced. So we select those. And remember, we added just a little bit of extra space. So now when we respace, you can see we have room for that extra stone that we added. So you see here, this space is loose. This is tight. This we probably could just leave as is, but I like to have everything equally spaced. So we have the tool. Why not do it? Select one, hold your shift key, select the others, respace, delete. And now we have a nice little section there that is nicely spaced, okay? So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, change it to light cyan, because we're going to make like the laces of our ball, and then every other stone. Now you can see this right here? We skip the first one, and then we skip every other one, and we have a problem because this one has two. That's not acceptable for me. So I would select these stones. We either have to add a stone or take one away. So let's hit respace. That will create a blend group or a group of stones along that path. If we hit plus minus, you can see the plus minus has appeared. We could try adding a stone. Well, that makes it pretty tight spacing. So let's right click to undo that, and then right click again to remove a stone, and then delete stone path, and then select every other stone and turn it into a lace. Okay? That won't make sense until you've watched this video for the 10th or 12th time. But anyhow, you understand my process, or you don't, either way. Alright, so back over here to stone fill. Now remember what we did earlier? We did 3.4. Let's try the same again. So we hit island fill, hit offset, 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 offset. We'll select everything. We'll set our stone color to crystal again, and Alt add stones. See, it did a reasonably good job. Reasonably good. So we'll select everything. We'll delete our stone paths. We'll check our spacing. Found a few overlaps. Now we just have to fill in the gaps here. So again, I would just start at the bottom here. We'll select these stones, come to the editing tab and respace those, delete the stone path. We'll add another one, respace, delete the stone path. Now the reason Easy Stone didn't determine that there was room for another stone is because there wasn't. Not and maintain this half millimeter spacing. So we're kind of overriding it, saying, well, in this case we'll cheat. So anyhow, that's what's happening there. So again, we'll just select these, respace. These here I think we'll just respace. I don't think we'll add a stone in there, but we can even those out a little bit if we need to. Here for sure we'll add a stone. Respace. And then here we'll add a stone too. Thank goodness for respace, man. We'd be here all day otherwise. Alright, so you can see there that pretty well takes care of it. Now these stones here are going to be right overlapping these. Alright, so really what we need to focus on is the stones on the other side. And it just so happens that we are able to skip a stone, every other one, and this one worked out. Where this one we had to drop a stone to get it to work out, this one we didn't. So now we're going to select all of those and just pair it up. Actually, I tell you what we should do is we should take this, make our duplicate and mirror it first, and then dump this right on top. Take these, shift page up. That will bring those all the way to the top of the layer stack here, so that when we put these stones on top of these stones, red will be on top. And then we'll select check spacing. Get rid of all those overlaps. And, whoops, I guess we'll have to go back and set these. Forgot about that. But that's okay. So there is our little baseball topper now. So let's go ahead and take and make a copy of this. Drag it down. I'm just right-clicking to make my copy. I always get rid of the weed box, so I don't have to worry about selecting it. But all I'm going to do here is just take this and group it together. And well, I guess they're already grouped together, so that makes it even easier. So we're going to take our baseball. Let's group it together. Let's bring it down and mirror it. And then we have our baseball. Shift, select this part, and we'll hit B for bottom and C for center. And then we can get rid of the pink one. So we'll get rid of the pink one. That sets our baseball there. T for top, it lines it up. C for center. We can get rid of the pink. And then I probably would take this and maybe B for bottom, so that is right in line there. And then here we'll do T for top, so the edge of our baseball is right in line with that. And there we go. So there's our baseball version. So now what I'll do is I'll change these over. Actually, I think what I did is I took 4 stones and made them red, and then 3 stones blue. So we'll select all of these and make those crystal. And then we'll select 4 and make them red. And we'll select 3 and make them blue. We'll select all of these, make them crystal. And then we'll select these, make them blue. And we'll select 4 and make them red. We'll throw a weed box around everything. We'll make a copy. Right click on MU to do the stone simulation, do the watermark, do the add dimensions, and away we go there. And there is the finished version of the baseball. So you can see it's really not that complicated to do these things. And really something like this, probably a 10 or 15 minute job. So it's very, very quick and easy once you understand all those little CorelDRAW shortcuts and understand how all these tools here inside Easy Stone. We have all these tools here in Easy Guides, and of course Easy Guides comes with Easy Stone. And very, very handy to have these guideline tools available to us as well, because it just makes the design process that much easier. So I hope you enjoyed this project. I hope you try the project. Download a trial 32-bit version trial of CorelDRAW X6. We've got a 60-day demo of Easy Stone. Watch this video a half dozen times if you need to, and then tear into it and give it a shot, because I think you'll be surprised at just how easy it really is once you get into it and start working with it. Thanks for watching.